We're happy to see those of you who are here tonight. Thank you for coming. I'm really excited about tonight. I think it will be a lot of fun. And so I will just kind of have everybody introduce themselves and then we will get started.
I'm Olivia Swenson. I'm the editor with Owl. And I work with authors once their books are accepted to make sure their stories shine and are going to reach the readers they want to reach. And so I've been editing since 2013 and I love it. I love my specialty is science fiction, fantasy, middle grade and YA, but I love pretty much all kinds of books. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm the acquisitions editor. So I read all the queries and make some big decisions and send sad rejections to lots of people.
All right, I'm Carrie Guest Listen. I'm the publicity manager. I get the fun part of making every part of it look magical and selling it to lots of people. So I love it.
Awesome. And Darby says my favorite 4 people in the world. And Candace says, hi, you all. Y'all. I'm not official, so I can't really say it. But and I'm the publisher. I kind of project manage things, all the pieces that come together. And we're really excited to be here tonight. We have questions that have come in through our inbox, but if you have questions as we go, feel free to leave them in the comments and we will answer them. And we're excited to just talk with you and have a conversation and learn more about the process that is publishing. So I think that, oh, Sarah Lamb says, Hannah rocks. You have a fan, Hannah. I was talking to my husband today about all these awkward Zoom calls he's on for work. And he said, I found the best question to ask people when you get started is, what's your favorite toppings on pizza? Because it breaks the ice and you learn so much about a person by the toppings that they choose. So I'm going to ask you all, what are your favorite toppings on pizza?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure what this is going to reveal about me, but I like pepperoni and sausage, which is pretty much the most boring, basic toppings, but it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, I would have picked you as like a vegan veggie pizza.
Well, it's funny because normally we don't eat meat, but when I get pizza,
all that goes out the window.
That's it. I feel like I learned from you.
I eat gluten-free pizza. So I really love the pepperoni and sausage the most, but those are my favorite toppings too.
Oh wow!
Awesome. I'm right there with boring. I'm a sausage and black olive person. So
we all like sausage.
Yes.
I like sausage. It's my second favorite, but my favorite is just a margarita, like the basil and tomatoes. That's my favorite, but not because I don't eat meat. I just think it simple and delicious. So Darby is black olives and meatballs.
Ooh.
Interesting. And not interesting in a bad way, just okay.
I've never heard of anybody that ate meatballs on pizza. She's the first.
Is it like the same thing as sausage though? I feel like that's very similar.
Aren't sausages just mini meatballs?
Right. I guess it depends on where you get it.
That's true. Maybe it's a Colorado thing. Candace says pepperoni and basil.
Ooh, sounds good.
I love basil. Okay, well, we're going to get started. Like I said, I have my Ron Swanson mug here, and I will just answer questions or ask questions, and then whoever would like to jump in and talk about them, and then we'll answer questions as they come in from the comments. So if you have some there, feel free to Darby says the meatballs are broken up and scattered across that pie.
Oh, so it's like ground beef on pizza.
Okay, the first one. I love this question. Why is publishing so slow? During the digital age, shouldn't books come out faster? Anyone have thoughts on that one?
I think this one is your answer.
Okay. Well, I think this is a great question. We're a small team, and so I think things take us a little bit of time because we're all personally touching it. But even if we had the best biggest team in the world, we do have the best team in the world. Even if we had the biggest team in the world, I still think it would be slow because there's so many pieces that you have to touch on a book. For example, I'll tell you how our process works. It'll be different for every publisher, but when we get queries, Hannah reads the book beginning to end, and her gauge for whether she likes a book is generally if she reads it in 1 or 2 sittings. She'll like it that much that she'll read it that quickly, the whole thing. And then we say, well, we'd like to talk to the author and the agent. And usually that'll take a week or 2 to set up. And then we'll send a contract, and that'll take, we've had some take months to iron out, just because there's a lot of back and forth and you're waiting for agents to be able to look at it. And sometimes their legal team, and then we have to respond to each of the items. So that can take a while. We've had, I think we've had a couple that were within a day or 2. They were really fast, but we've had others that were literally 4 or 5 months to even just sign the contract. And then they go to Olivia. And Olivia, do you want to tell us a little bit about your timeline?
Yeah, so we do 2 rounds of developmental edits, and one developmental edit of like a 70 or 80,000 word book will usually take me 2 weeks, and then authors usually need 4 to 6 weeks to kind of implement those suggestions. And then I take another 2 weeks to do another edit, and then the author, the second edit is usually a little lighter because we've addressed kind of the bigger issues, but the author still needs like 2 to 4 weeks after that to implement those. So that right there is like 2 to 3 months of edits, and it can't even go longer. Like the author, if there are larger issues that the author needs to address, it might stretch the timeline out more. And so it's actually nice with Owl Hollow because usually we have some buffer room so the authors can really like get into work on the edits that they need to make the book the best it can be.
Yep, thank you. So, and this again, I don't know how other publishers work, but we've done it before where we set a release date and then we've had too many issues pushed, like an author will take longer on edits or the cover designer will take longer than we anticipated. So the process that Olivia talked about, we don't even start talking about, we have a calendar of, you know, release dates where we're aiming for, but we don't even set an official date until Olivia's worked with them through that process. And at that point it's 6 months out because Hannah, what do you do next?
I read it again just to check if there's anything that was missed by 2 intense rounds with Olivia. And usually mine is quick. Mine's less than a week most of the time. We read it and it's just stuff that they okay on. They just are like, yep. And it's just a couple of edits.
Yeah.
So mine's quick.
And during the time that Olivia is working with them, behind the scenes, Hannah and I are going back and forth with covers. So we'll try, sometimes it takes a while to find what cover designer we want, or sometimes we'll find one and it won't go well. So we'll switch halfway through the process, or we know what we want, but we're just not finding the right person. So sometimes that can take a while, and that's while the editor is working. So those overlap, and still they usually end at the same point where we have both ready at the same time, but sometimes there's lag on one or other of the sites. So then Carrie comes in, and at this point is when we send out reviews to, or books to, early reviewers in the industry. And then Carrie, do you want to talk a little bit about how we kind of develop their marketing strategy?
Sure. A lot of times the ARCs will go out. We try and figure out best ways to get it in front of readers. We talk about if the author wants to do school visits, or just setting up ways to get people in front of the book. We have a lot of people that don't read our ARCs, which are interesting and frustrating a lot of the times, but and then we go from there. I feel like the marketing side never really ends, and Emma is a huge help in that, but we just keep the ball rolling with that.
So then, anyway, so at that point we kind of are on a, you know, the, what do you call it? The downhill run.
Downhill stretch.
Yes.
Home run.
Thank you. There's some kind of sports analogy.
I thought you were landing a plane.
I don't know. Sorry. So really it takes it takes a year at least, and that's if we had nothing else going on, but there's a lot of different projects we're juggling at different times. So that's kind of how the process works. So even in an ideal world, it still takes some time because we want the book to be the best it can be, and every part of that takes time. So anyone have anything they want to add to that?
I had a follow-up question for Carrie. So you're saying that people like will request the advanced reader copy and then they just won't read it or they won't review it?
No, most of the time when people request an advanced reader, they'll read it.
Okay.
And usually we have reviewers and stuff. There are authors will sometimes ask us to send it to specific people, and they often, it's give and take depending on how busy the year is for them or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's on the request of the author who we send it to, and a lot of times we don't get a lot of feedback from those. So that's
Okay, so not necessarily successful. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting process. Okay, I feel like this is, all three of you could answer this. I would think maybe a little more Hannah and Olivia, but what are your favorite genres to work on, and are they the same genres you like to read?
Yeah, yes. I like to edit science fiction and fantasy because I like to read science fiction and fantasy. I feel like a lot of kind of my editing like brain comes from having read a ton in the genres of science fiction and fantasy. And so like from when I was a little kid, I just read, and now as an editor, I kind of have these like inherent, I don't know, like cues that go off my brain when I'm reading a story and I'm like, oh no, like this could be better this way, this could be better this way. And sometimes it's hard for me to explain to an author like why something feels off. But I've learned to really trust those kind of like gut instincts when I'm reading a book, and to work with the author on strengthening whatever it is that I feel a certain way about, just because I have so much, just such a history of reading these genres that I love so much. So yeah, I love working on what I read. I will say that some people are like, how can you enjoy reading, like when reading is your job? And I edit and read very differently. And so it's a lot of times after a really hard or a difficult edit is completed, I reward myself by reading a book. Like I'll read for fun after I edit. And so they just feel really different to me, even though I still do the same genres for both my pleasure reading and my work. But
it definitely uses a different part of the brain. A book always relaxes me. It's like taking a hot bath or something.
yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier whenever you sent the question to us. Sorry if that's giving information away. But I think that I like a lot of mysteries that come in. Maybe because it's something that I don't read a lot of in real life. But my she's in 8th grade, and her librarian asked for one of our books this week, and she wanted a mystery. And I was like, we have so many. Like, it's just so funny, because that's not something I read at all. I'm like a lot like Olivia, and I like fantasy and science fiction too. But have we ever given you a fantasy and science fiction book? Fantasy, yes, but
Yeah, science fiction. I mean, you guys had some before I came in. I think
yeah.
Golden Skies, I think, was a sci-fi.
Platform Dwellers.
Platform
Yeah,
Dwellers,
that's true.
post-apocalyptic, it's kind of sci-fi.
But yeah, we haven't had a lot of that lately. Carrie, do you have anything to add?
No, I have broadened my spectrum since working here. I like romance and magic because I like the escape from real life. I have 3 very small children, and so I like to escape that sometimes, not because I don't love them, just because, you want a little adventure here and there. But my tail end of the job is different, and I read it with a different scope, and sometimes I annoy Emma with it because I'm like, oh my goodness, think of all the parties we could do with this, and think of all the events that we could do. And then she like pulls me in and says, we're not in the same place, we're not, it's hard to do those types of things. But I look at it from a creative atmosphere where I like reading to figure out a fun and inviting way to show it off. So it's just different.
Which is why I think I forget what it's called, and I'm sorry, but our Owl's Nest, that's why those are so good. So check those out, because it's all homeschooling, kid learning, lots of fun activities. Those are amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, we have a question from Beth. Beth says, what is your background, education, previous experience that got you to where you are? Question to all of you. Cool.
I can go first.
Okay.
My education, I minored in editing in college, which was kind of like more of a copy edit heavy. Like I learned a lot of grammar stuff, like sentence structure, parts of speech, like stuff that sounds really boring, but that I thought was really cool. And then honestly, I probably couldn't repeat a lot back to you, but I know how to look it up. So that's just as important as knowing it in my brain. And then I started kind of freelance editing on the side, and I had a full-time job. And then we moved overseas and out to Portugal, and I didn't speak Portuguese. And I was like, okay, this is my chance to kind of full-time edit. And so I just started like cold emailing publishers. And honestly, is that how, did I email you, Emma? And that's how, yeah. So somehow I found all press that I just, yeah, cold emailed Emma, and the rest is history. But yeah, so I work for a few different kind of indie publishers. And yeah, I love it. It's my dream job. So I feel really lucky.
Very good at it.
She has an Instagram account. Can I say that on here?
Yes.
Is it Olivia Edits?
Yeah, Olivia.edits too. So yeah, I've had my own business since 2016, but just in January, I decided to put myself out there on social media, and it's going. It's a lot of work to create content, but hopefully it's helping authors, and it's fun for me to connect with the editing community. So
it's
Beth,
helping me too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Beth asks what you majored in, Olivia.
I majored in international relations, so political science and economics, which is not writing related, but
That's cool.
So we just established that Olivia found us out of the blue. So I will say that it was fun to kind of realize that we went to the same college and I took the same editing minor. So I was an English major, editing minor, and actually German minor too, but that has helped me not at all. But I did several internships through that, like with the school newspaper and school scholarly articles, that kind of stuff. And I loved it too. I think there's just a weird breed of people that love editing. Yes. And so, and then I did some technical editing for a software company and just spent a lot of time focused on that. But I eventually moved into a management role where I managed an account of like 40 tech dudes, which was interesting. But I realized they're so similar. Publishing is basically managing projects. Each book is a project that you have to see from start to finish. And so I started out heavy in the editing, but since Olivia and Hannah are so great at that, and I like to focus more on the business stuff, that's kind of what skill set I use more now is the account management. But very similar background with Olivia, and just kind of I feel like one of the best things about a small company in any form is just that you have to wear a lot of hats, so you learn a lot of things. And someday our goal is to like steal Olivia away so she doesn't work for anyone else, just us. And I feel like all of us are learning different skill sets as we go, but that's kind of what my background in education is.
I have a degree in history. That's it, people. I homeschooled my kids for, I can't even remember now, more than 8 years. So I had that, and I did a little bit of editing, like freelance editing on the side, tiny bit, but I feel like I've learned a lot just from anthologies. The anthologies were my baptism by fire, I think.
Yeah. Good way to put it.
So I have a degree in early childhood education, which I know seems a little weird for me to be here, but I also have a minor in human development. So I also have I used to own a party planning and event company. So that's kind of where my creative mind comes in with Owl Hollow. I've done a varied amount of different things job-wise, but sold expensive blenders that, people wouldn't buy otherwise. And I worked for a long time during college doing helping professors write books and stuff. So I've had a lot of varied backgrounds that help make me a good asset team, right? Good asset, even though I don't have a degree in book-ish things. So
So hopefully that answers your question, Beth. If you're interested in being in the publishing industry, I feel like there's a lot of internships, especially in this industry, just getting your foot in the door. And publishing is cool because there's editing, there's marketing, there's sales, there's all different kinds of careers in publishing. So, and I think all of it's learnable. I don't think you have to have a specific degree to do well in the industry. You just have to be willing to learn and be open to that. And so hopefully that answers your question. And Darby says that Olivia supports her M- obsession. So we have an enabler here. Okay, next question is, oh, maybe this is for more, well, I'll quit saying who it's for. What is something out of the box that a querying author did that you liked or did not like?
The query is for me.
It's totally for you, but I didn't.
So I have a really bad memory, so I can just remember my queries from this week. But I got one this week, and he listed just with like a spread, like it was just basic information, but all the things that he's accomplished, it was little sentences, but I could see everything at a glance. So I could just look up. I knew everything about him, and I was like so in love with this style, which I don't think it would work in every situation. He did have like a really nice amount of books that he's written, so he's, you know, kind of established in the business. So that probably works in his favor. But for me, especially if I'm in our submissions and sending, you know, checking things out and sending rejections, it's nice to just have a quick look and see like what's there, and so then I don't have to read, you know, a huge long list. So I loved it. It was amazing. I don't know if I recommend it for everybody, but for him, it worked this week.
Yeah, good. Anyone want to add anything to that? Yeah, I feel like with querying, you want to stand out in a good way, not a bad way. There's a lot of ways to stand out in a bad way, but like she said, he was established enough that he could just kind of be concise about that. I'm going to skip that one for now. Okay, this is an interesting one. How do publishers / agents view a book that doesn't fit neatly into one genre or audience? Is that a bad sign for them? Any thoughts? I feel like we're the wrong people to ask because we've got all these weird books that not weird, but I was thinking like with Ashley's last week with the Titanic, it's mystery, it's a little bit supernatural, it's history, it's all these different things. So I think some of the best books don't fit neatly into one genre. Marketing them is a challenge, but I think when you spend the time to find out where they fit and where the readers are, then they're well worth it. What do you think?
I was going to say, I feel like a lot of, Owl Hollow's books are kind of cross genre because could be super interesting and engaging for a reader. But yeah, it's exactly. I think a lot of times bigger publishers might not go for that because it's hard to market to. And so, but I think readers are missing out when they don't get those kinds of stories. So I like that.
I really like cross genres. So disappoint me. I'm sorry. But I told one of my friends this week that writing is writing. Like good writing is good writing. It doesn't really matter. So it's just a story. We want the good story, well written and powerful. And I think that will speak to anybody.
Beth asked, do publishers accept queries all the time or is there a season? Beth, I would check different websites. Like every publisher will have a website. A lot of publishers don't accept queries unless you have an agent. Some like us accept them at certain times. I think we're like February, June, September. Is that right, Hannah? I don't remember. But just because we get so many and it's so overwhelming and we would never get any other work done if we were open all the time. So if you just check individual agents and publishers' websites, they'll tell you when they're open. But it's a different season for everyone. Some people take the holidays off, some people take the summer off. So it's just always changing. And I don't think there's a good answer for that.
And you could find, like when I was cold, I'm not doing this anymore, but when I was cold emailing publishers, there's a website called Literary Marketplace that lists all the publishers known to mankind. And so when I was researching which publishers, like this might be useful for authors looking for a publisher, like I would go to their website and just see what they published recently. Is it the genre that because sometimes you'll type in like science fiction publisher and you'll get like the big ones that only accept agented submissions or something. And so sometimes by finding the smaller publishers, like an indie publisher, then you have a better chance of getting your book to readers. And so Literary Marketplace is kind of a good place to start finding publishers.
Excellent tip. Thank you. I can't remember if it was Darby or Candace who said Hannah's degree in history has saved their bacon several times. I think it was Darby. And then Darby said, Carrie's knowledge of education has been a boon for those of us writing middle grade and YA. And also that Carrie should tell the mermaid story.
Yes, she should.
I will tell it, Darby, just so people can see how good I am at my job, but also how much I love my job. So, like I said, I have an event planning background, and I love themes, and I love everything, taking care of all the details or whatever. But we had one of our teen author boot camps a couple years ago. Their theme was help me, Emma. It was nautical. I can't remember what
It was the Band of Misfits one, I think.
Is that what it was?
I think so.
Mhm.
Okay.
And all of the stories were pirates or mermaids.
That's right. Thank you. So we like to do kind of a launch party to celebrate these teen authors because they worked so hard and it's such an accomplishment. And Owl Hollow is really great when Hannah and Emma, and I think Olivia has done it too, when they edit them and they pick the winners, they actually win a cash reward. So we want them to feel like they're a published author. But that year it was nautical themed, and we had a fun backdrop and stuff, and I dressed up as a mermaid and walked around in a very uncomfortable skirt. And it was the first time meeting our author Darby in person, and of course fell in love with her. Her hotel was just a few streets over, and I said, hey, I'll give you a ride. And I didn't have anything to change into, of course, because I'm a mermaid, right? And so I drove her back to her hotel in my mermaid skirt, and it was challenging. It's hard to drive in something so constricting, but it gives you a better appreciation for all the mermaids of the sea. But Darby's a sweetheart. Always likes to tell people that story because I don't know. I guess it's a good thing that I stand out in weird ways.
Only the best.
That's the best story ever. I think we should do it every time we do a live. We should tell that story.
Maybe a reenactment.
Yes.
Oh, I think Carrie should do a YouTube video, like driving for mermaids, driving 101, how to get your scales on the gas and the brake pedal.
I mean, Emma could share a million stories. I've shown up at her events with giant butterfly wings, or like I feel very strongly about making a theme work. So that's what
I love about you. Okay, this is maybe Olivia. A lot of people say they can edit. How can you tell if you're getting someone who's actually good at it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the key is to get sample edits from a variety of editors. So, I mean, however you feel most comfortable getting to know an editor. I definitely feel like the editor-author relationship you kind of need to feel good about the editor you're working with, even if they do a sample edit and you feel like the edit was really good. If you feel like the editor themselves if they're maybe a little cold or aloof, or they just don't jive with you, then I would take the time to maybe find out more editors that will jive. And that way it's more likely that they'll understand your and be able to kind of get in your voice and understand what story you're trying to tell. And so the best way to do that is with sample edits and then just communication about expectations and so that's what I have to say about that.
Great answer. Anyone want to add anything? I think that was a good answer. Should I be worried about agents and editors stealing my book ideas? Why not?
No, I've heard some people talk about that on Instagram, like some authors, and I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. Has that happened before? I don't know. It's never something I've heard of, but it just doesn't seem like a sustainable work plan for an editor or an author. Or, I mean, as an editor or an agent, if they take somebody else's work, then they are done with their career. So yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how to, and usually in like a contract that you sign with an editor, or I assume an agent, there's going to be something about not taking your work, like your work is the authors and not the editors or agents. So you can usually hold that against them. But
I would say two things, and they're kind of both a little bit mean, but I'm just going to say it. One, everybody thinks their idea is super unique, but if you read the query inbox, there are very few that stand out as being different. And a lot of those run together. So I feel like a lot of people who are worried about their ideas being stolen, they're very similar to other people's ideas, and nobody's really that interested in your, not that it's not a good idea or not that it's not well done. It's just that everything's retold, everything's repeated, and there's nothing that we can do about that. And the second one is, if anybody's a writer and an editor and an agent, they have a million of their own ideas that they want to write, and they will never get to all of them in this lifetime. And so taking your idea is probably very low on their list. And I mean, even if they did steal your idea, they would do it in a totally different way because they're a totally different person. And so I feel like the risk of that happening is very low. But most agents and editors just work really hard. They work really long hours reading through a lot of stuff. And as Hannah said, I don't even remember my query inbox from 1 week to the next. And so the chances of that happening, I would say, are very minimal. Hannah, do you have anything to add? Have you ever tried to steal an idea?
No, you guys answered that spot on. I just think ideas are universal, and stories, you know, like the same tropes are used over and over and whatever. So no.
I would say that. Very low risk. Okay, here's a good one. And this kind of goes with, Beth also asked, what is a bad way to stand out in a query? So let's kind of lump those two together. What are traits agents or editors look for in an author they want to work with?
Oh, wow. Okay. So things not to do in a query?
Or just like when you see something, what makes you want to work with a person or not work with a person?
I just think you can tell instantly the overall tone of a person from their query letter. If they're happy to be there and happy to query you, you're going to pick it up. If they think that they are better than you, you're going to pick that up. If they think, you know, any number of things, positive and negative. And I think a lot of the query, if it's especially from the author, bleeds into the relationship with us as a publishing company. So someone who's open to new ideas and willing to work hard and has a general positive attitude. These are, you know, just like for any job, it's the same. It's the same for us as it is anywhere. We want pleasant, happy, shining people. My cats are crazy, sorry. So I don't know. Respect, I think respect is a big thing. We want to be treated with just as much respect as a big publishing house. Not, we're tiny, but we want the same respect. So just those same general things. Do you have anything to add yourself?
Do you have any thoughts, Olivia? Or Carrie?
I mean, when I'm working with authors who are trying to get published, I can obviously be a little more choosy about who I work with. And so, I mean, I've thought about kind of my ideal client, but really what it boils down to is just that they're willing to take constructive criticism. Like if they're willing to see that their story can be improved, then it generally bodes well for our relationship moving forward as an editor author on the same team. And so that's kind of like, as we're talking back and forth in our initial emails, if they seem amenable to making, if they're ready to make their story better than it already is, then that's great. And that's really important.
Yeah, I like what you said about being on the same team. And I think that's, you got to be a team player. I think that's a great word of advice.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we will do. One, we schedule a call with every author that we want to work with and just kind of get their vibe. If we've actually had a couple that we didn't end up working with because they were really, like Olivia said, resistant to any kind of feedback, any kind of change. And it doesn't matter if you have the best story in the world. If you won't listen to anyone else, then there's not a lot you can do with that. And second, we'll sometimes ask for R&Rs, revise and resubmit. So if we like a story or we like an author and we just want to see how, if we could work together on one part of the story or whatever. And 99% of the time, authors are excited about that and willing to do the work. And occasionally we'll have one that just says, no, I don't want to do that. And so then we know, well, that's not someone we want to work with, because that bleeds over into other areas as well. So just be a decent human being. Like, that's all it boils down to. Just be nice, be respectful, be willing to, it's not that we think we know everything or that we know better than you. It's that we have a different perspective. And that's why you're hopefully looking for a publisher, is to get a different perspective. Otherwise, just self-publish if you already feel like you have it down. Carrie, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, I like seeing people who are excited about their work instead of just saying, oh, I've worked on it for so long or whatever, and handing it off, because it reflects also in their marketing and their ability to hit the ground running when it's time to start talking about their book and showing people their book. So I think it is in all the facets of the working process, but being excited and being willing to work with us on that. So
yeah, agreed. Okay, next question. Let's see. Okay, this is probably for Hannah. How do you know if an agent or publisher actually liked your work if they're rejecting your query? I feel like there's a lot of form responses. Is there a way that writers can tell whether you actually liked it and it was close, or if it was just far off from being accepted?
I feel like if it's really close, then I will say that. Maybe not in those exact words, but I will give them a longer email with more information about specific things that I liked. We send a lot of rote replies. And so if you get kind of a one sentence reply, it just didn't hit the right buttons on that day. And so in the long run, though, no, I don't think there really is a way, just because I think so many people are looking for specific things at specific times. And so it just didn't fall into the slot at the magic moment. So just keep trying. Yeah, my advice.
This one's for Carrie. How do you market your book beforehand and get people interested?
That's a super good question. So I'll kind of sound like a broken record a little bit. I did a Facebook Live a couple weeks ago about this, but I would highlight the first 3 points that I talked about. Is know your story, being an expert on it, and then choosing one social media platform to kind of throw yourself out there. And I chose those 3 because I feel like they're really important. With the know your story, obviously you've worked really closely with this for a long time, and it's your baby. That's kind of what we say sometimes, is it's your baby. But no one's going to sell that book like you do. And they want to know all these questions of, what got you started, what your inspiration was, whatever. And the more people know about you, if they're drawn to you, then they'll also be drawn to your story. So I feel like if you can own that, that goes hand in hand with being an expert on things. And I know it's hard it sounds kind of cocky a little bit, but I genuinely believe that when you own it and say, my book's about mermaids and I know everything there is to know about mermaids or whatever, then people are going to gravitate towards that confidence and they're going to be excited about your book. And one thing with that is promoting yourself, making sure that the bios that you send out to people, to publishers, that you have on the internet and things like that really reflect that you have that expertise, and people are looking for things like that. It's your own unique take on things. And then the social media platform, all of us have social media platforms that are that we gravitate towards more than others, or that we have more fans or friends or wherever in between on that one. But that you could really hit the ground running as soon as you've maybe submitted your book or whatever, getting people excited about reading it. The other thing is talk it up. And I know it sounds weird because I am spastic on some of these Facebook Lives, but I am a complete introvert and I hate talking to people. But it is one thing that I found that I can do with this company is walk up to someone and talk about our books, because I have so much love for them and so much faith in them that I think just being able to market yourself that way, I know it's scary, but it really can be really fun, and it can start in weird ways. Just, hey, I noticed that you have this on your backpack or whatever. I have a book coming out about this, or I'm writing a book about this. And it's just little ways that you can talk about yourself and sell yourself that really will make you stand out.
Kind of a sidetrack. That was a great answer, Carrie. We were talking, Hannah and I were talking with a potential author a few weeks ago, one that we would like to sign. And she was at her COVID shot when she got our email that we wanted to meet. And she's like, I just started telling everyone, and I could have sold 20 books that day. So she was just excited. And then it was, it was, her excitement was contagious, and that contagious is a bad word at a COVID shop, but she got people excited about her book, just being excited about it and talking about it in a random place. And so just kind of having the confidence or enthusiasm to do weird little things like that will make a big difference.
Totally. And one more thing, it's not like you're an MLM and you're like trying to sell things, like you're not getting a commission off it probably anytime soon, but just being excited about it. One thing that I have a bunch of cousins that are all teachers, and a couple of years ago we were doing the Del Toro Moon classroom giveaway, and I hadn't seen these cousins in years. It was at my brother's wedding, and I just was like, I'm gonna go talk to them about it. And I hated it because it was hard, but I feel like generating interest like that, it benefited them and their kids in their classrooms and all sorts of things. So it's just being able and willing to talk about it, and you don't have to do it in an eloquent way. You can just sell it little by little, but it's
not
a
salesy way. You're just connecting with people over something you're mutually interested in and excited about.
I have a follow-up question. Did your cousins win that giveaway?
No. So I didn't realize that most of them had moved to be special needs classrooms. And so we gave them a couple of copies of the books, but they were children and students that weren't able to read it on their own. So I was a little bit sad about that, but they were grateful that I would talk to them about it and remember that they were teachers and show and share that interest with them. But they didn't win. I'm sorry.
It's a terrible ending to that story. Just kidding.
Good at that.
Okay, Olivia, when you're paying an editor, should you pay in chunks for milestones, or should you pay everything at the end? What's the best way to do that?
So editors will have their own kind of payment preferences, and a lot of editors will ask for half upfront and then the second half when they've reached like a halfway point or at some point during the edit. I'm still at the point where I feel bad asking for money for work I haven't done yet. And so I should probably ask for half up front. Also, a lot of editors have different ways of charging for what they do. So I just charge, like when I'm working for a publisher, it's just project by project. But when I'm working for authors who are trying to get published or who are self-publishing, I charge by the hour. And I can usually give them an estimate based on the sample edit I've done of how much I will charge for this. But since I don't know for sure, I don't like asking for money up front, but that's pretty unusual. Most editors will ask for half up front, and then and I have had a few people, 2 people have not paid me ever. So that's usually a big motivator to get half up front, because then even if they leave, you got half. So like, even if they don't pay you the rest. So, but yeah, it really depends on the editor.
I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question I'm going to ask, and then Beth has a question. And then if you have any final questions, feel free to enter them in the comments now. Any tips to help build confidence in writers? As you guys have worked with different writers, have you noticed anything that helps build their own confidence or in your own work?
I would say that finishing a first draft is a big confidence builder. I think a lot of times it's easy to start the story because you have the idea and you're excited to start and the characters are kind of coming alive in your head. But it can be hard when you get to that second act when things are kind of dragging as the characters are developed. Anyway, and you don't know how to make the characters develop. And then you're like, I have no idea how this is going to wind up. Like, I had this exciting idea, but who knows how it's going to like conclude. But I think that by pushing through that and just writing whatever, like, it doesn't have to be, the first draft is not going to be brilliant. Like, it's draft 0. Like, it doesn't even count. I don't know. But once you write the end, that's a big confidence builder, and it helps you practice all of those parts of this, writing the story, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you have to practice writing endings in order to get better at them. And so I think that just powering through, and if you have to skip a scene or something, but just keep trying to finish your draft, I think that would build confidence.
It's a really great answer.
I see our authors all the way at the end, like once it's all perfect and beautiful, and I try not to make too many comments because I just want to be in and out. But recently, just I'll say one thing and they will send me like 100 messages, and I love it so much. So I think just being a little bit invested in their story and showing something that you have loved about it gets them so excited, and all the things Olivia was saying. But it's just been such a pleasure to have all these little like ping ping pings in my whatever.
Yeah, those are both excellent answers. The one thing I would add to that is keep writing. Like Olivia said, finish a draft. I feel like you get your best ideas when you're halfway through the draft of something else. And so it's easy to want to abandon that for the shiny new thing, but finish it and then write the next thing and then write the next thing. Brandon Sanderson has this theory that it takes 10 good books to get published. I know a lot of authors have similar number of books or word counts or hours invested, that you have to put in the work to practice. And your first draft's not going to be amazing. Your first book's probably not going to be amazing. But as you keep writing and figuring that out on your own, you'll gain confidence as a writer as well. Carrie, anything?
I've just noticed in like the marketing and being a sounding board for them, trying to give a perspective of a way that it could go or whatever is always exciting to them, that they can see the bigger picture when we say, pitch to podcasts and other things. It's something that they didn't think about before, and just being a sounding board of helping them get noticed, but also different avenues of how we can market them makes it really exciting to them. So
awesome. Great answer. Okay. Beth says, where would you suggest a newbie writer go to learn more about the process, as in how to get an agent? Do you even need an agent? What to expect when you're trying to publishing for dummies? So I'm not trying to push you off, Beth, but I will tell you this little teaser before I let people answer. Next month, so we opened to queries in June. And so next month, most of May will be focused on queries and finding the right agents to query, that kind of stuff. Hannah, our acquisitions goddess, is going to teach several classes that kind of break that down. And so if you want to, I think that's a great place to start. She also did a video a month or two ago about do's and don'ts for querying, which is another great place to start. So I would say just things like this, showing up where people in the industry are talking. There's tons of information on YouTube for writers about different parts of the process. There's writing conferences. There's authors that like to talk about the process. What do you guys think? Any thoughts there?
I really recommend the book On Writing by Stephen King. Just learning about the craft of writing. That was a really engaging and like interesting read. So if you're just worried about like improving your writing, that's a good place to start.
Great. And learning his history, that he wrote a lot before he actually got something that stuck. So just knowing that about other people is helpful.
I was just going to recommend the conferences, which you already mentioned, but just like you said, with lots of other people that are talking about it, will get you motivated and excited and give you the next place to look or what to do, for sure.
I would just add, join a writing group. There are a lot of people out there that are kind of in the same boat that you are, and I think being able to collaborate that way will help you and help them.
Darby says, so much of publishing is being in the right place at the right time. So true. Josh says, Hannah, the acquisitions goddess. So you have a new title. Hannah. Darby says On Writing is my all-time favorite how-to book. So I just think we should end by telling what you're reading now or what you're excited about now and what you'd love to see more of as an editor or marketer or publisher.
Okay, so I just barely started An Ember in the Ashes. And it's like a fantasy. I'm 5 minutes into the audiobook. So I'm also actually reading Disenchanted by Brianna Sugalski, which is like a dark fantasy set in medieval times that has vampires and princesses. So I've worked with her as
What your scholar are doing.
That's a great book. And then what was the other question? What do I want to see more of?
Yeah, what do you love working on as an editor?
I just really like I like stories that have kind of moral dilemmas, where you can really see both sides of whether the protagonist and the bad guy or two good guys that just have opposing ideas on something, but the author just writes it in a way that you can really see how both people have very rational reasons why they're doing things that are opposite. I think that's a really interesting. I really like books like that. So not that that's just like a random, I don't necessarily need to see more of it, but that's just something I find really interesting, that writers can make that happen in a reader's headspace, those two conflicting ideas.
Great comment.
I'm reading a book, it's a middle grade, that's about a Vietnamese family. I think their grandmother is from Vietnam. It has an imaginary tiger in it. I love it though. But I was also reading A Query all day, and that's literally all I can think about, but I can't talk about it on here. And she did a really amazing thing in her story where the main character, all the story was happening to her, but she had a underlying struggle, like an internal struggle that was on pretty much every single page of the book. And it just weaved through the whole story, and you really wanted to know what was going to happen, not just with the story, but with this personal growth. And so I just always like personal growth in a book.
I'm currently reading The Chocolate Touch with my 7-year-old. That is legit the only reading I've been doing lately, but I would love to get back into it. And then I'm excited about all the things happening. I feel like Hannah makes my job super easy. Thanks, Hannah and Emma and Olivia, by giving me great books. I couldn't ask for more on that, because you've given me lots of fun content to work on, and hopefully I do it all justice.
Awesome. In our February Valentine's panel, they talked about Eleanor Oliphant is perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine.
Completely fine. Yeah, I just finished that one and loved it. I thought that one was really, really good. I liked that it was like a slow burn, and it wasn't about the romance. It was just a really good story. So that's
it was so funny. That was one of when we had our book roundup of 2020 or whatever. That was one that I had mentioned because I thought it was so funny.
Okay, I'd forgotten that. That's why I got it. I keep hearing about it. So clearly I was behind on that one, but it was so good. And I've been working on, we have 3 books that I'm working on right now really closely. All the Lonely People for Jen Hawkins, and Hickory Heart, The Girl with the Hickory Heart for Lauren, Nicole Taylor, and The Namer of Spirits with Todd Mitchell. And they're just all so good. And so I've been reading chunks of those at a time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best book we've ever done. And then I'll switch to the other one. Oh, this is the best book we've ever done. And so they're just so fun, and we have a lot of stuff we're excited about. And then this month we've reread The Poppy and the Rose for book club. So this is 99 cents for 2 more days. If you haven't read it, it's Titanic and mystery and a little bit of magic, everything that we apparently love. I feel like a lot of ours have history, a little bit of magic, and a mystery. Somehow that's like the perfect combination for us. And then I'm going to introduce our book of the month for next month. It is Bennytown, and it's a horror. It's a little darker, but it's super fun. And this is probably something I shouldn't admit, but my 11-year-old read it. It's an adult book, but she picked it up and wouldn't put it down, and she just was talking about it for weeks, like, what about this, what about this? So I think it's a really fun book, and that's going to be our May read. So you can pick that up for 99 cents starting whenever May 1st is. But anyway, do you guys have any last words or final comments before we wrap up? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. We're always so grateful when you show up, and hopefully you found something helpful in here. And we love our authors and books, and hope you don't mind that we brag about them, because we're super excited about them. And hopefully we'll see you next week, and we'll announce our topic for next week soon. It's going to be about querying, but we have a little thing we're doing, so that will happen soon. So watch our social media channels for that, and there'll be lots of information on querying soon. So have a great night. Thank you so much for being here.
Subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss an upload, or join us live every Thursday for author interviews, book clubs, writing advice, and more on Facebook at Owl Hollow Press, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. See you Thursday.